we're at that point in the year where I would invite you all to be thinking about, we're in the disappearing fourth quarter, which means that we need to be running at the production pace of next year's goal. And if you're a rainmaker, then what that really looks like is hitting your listing taken number that the 2020 first quarter ultimately calls for. So if your goal next year is to take 120 listings, then you need to be taking roughly 10 every month, starting in October, November, and December, so that, we don't have these very lean months in the first quarter of next year. In fact, one thing that I've seen over the years is there's about a 90% correlation for teams and agents on teams, that if you are on pace through the first quarter, there's about a 90% chance that you're going to hit your overall goal. And if you're off pace, majorly off pace in the first quarter, then there's a 90% correlation that you're probably not going to hit the overall goal. So I would just invite you all to be getting really intentional right now about your time and looking at, I think that there are three kind of modes that we all operate in. There's active, passive, and off. So active means you're doing the 20%, right? You're lead generating, converting, you're going on appointments, you're creating new business. And passive means you're just kind of taking things that come your way. It's like a maintenance mode, right? I'm closing out my deals. If something falls in my lap, I'll do it. And then off is just you're not working. And so what I would invite you all to do, and a number of you have already shared this, but I wanted to share it as the group, is go into your schedule from now until the end of the year and mark your time off. So if you're taking time off for Thanksgiving, mark it off. If you're going to take time off for Christmas, New Year's Eve, whatever holidays you ultimately celebrate, mark that time off. So I know I'm a little bit of a broken record around this idea, but in doing that, I want you to get very clear about what time you are on or are going to be active. And my intention with this is for you to avoid the passive mode that robs so many people during this time of launching into next year with a really strong push and momentum. Okay, so all of you get into your schedule and do that. Now, the model that I want to share with you today, this is one of my favorites. I originally ripped this off from the book Shift, and Gary calls it the 4 C's. And I gave it one more C and call it the 5 C's. So let me share my screen here with you so you can see this. And hopefully, oops, there you go. Hopefully you guys can see that. But essentially what we've got here at the top, first, I want you to think of this like a highway system. So imagine that you get into a helicopter or an airplane and you're hovering over like a highway system in one of your cities where you've got, exit ramps and highways crossing each other. And I want you to kind of think of like you're hovering over this and looking down at a highway system. Okay. Now the 5 circles on top, those represent our 5 lead generation sources. Gary's evidence or research on this has been very conclusive that 90% of the business that comes into mega agent businesses comes from 5 or fewer sources. So again, this isn't anything new to any of you, but you don't need 50 lead generation sources. Typically, you only need 5. Okay. So think of each one of those as simply a way that you originate relationships. And then what happens is your goal is to connect with these people and capture their information. So let's just say that one of your lead generation sources is open houses, right? So you have the open house, somebody walks in and you have a script, one of my favorite scripts, rather than saying, hey, what brings you in here today? Just like walking into a retail store, or, hey, can I help you? Because that elicits a autoresponder of we're just looking. My favorite all-time open house script is, hey, welcome to the open house. Have you ever been in this home before? because it, makes them think different. It's a little bit of a pattern interrupt, but they come in and our goal is to connect with them and then capture their information. Now, if I go back to my history in real estate, I started out in my best friend's mom's office. And if I never got into real estate and still lived in the market where she operates today, and met you as another agent in an open house, there's nothing you're going to do or say that's going to cause me to use you as my realtor. I'm going to use her if I had never gotten into real estate. So for somebody like that, you want to kick those people to the curb. If they have relationship equity with another realtor and you're not going to overcome that, then kick them to the curb, and that's okay. Also, if they're a massive jerk, right, and they're rude, won't give you the time of day, life's too short. Kick those people to the curb. Now, other people you meet, they may have an immediate need, right? Maybe you get lucky in an open house, and this is somebody that's got to be into another home in the next 6 weeks. And our goal there would be close them to an appointment. So close them to a buyer consultation, sit down with them, do a needs analysis, and ultimately figure out what it is that we can do to help them. But the vast majority of people that we meet, whether it's in an open house or other sources, and this is where most of you screw this up, is going to go into the cultivate phase. Now, cultivate starts by taking those people and putting them in a database, putting them in your CRM. And if they are a lead, remember my definition of a lead is somebody who will transact in the next 6 months. You have qualified motivation and timeline through the 6 connecting questions on page 95 and shift. And you have permission to follow up with them. Those people need to go into your database, but also into your pipeline. Right. And if you're not clear about how we encourage or coach people around the pipeline, go to my site, myfreelife.com, access the growth tools, type in build your pipeline. We have an entire video, an entire system on this. Okay. But either way, if they're a lead or not, we want them in the database, and then ultimately they need to be set up on a communication plan. Now, communication plans, I think at minimum, we should have 3 8x8s, which are buyer 8x8s, people that are looking to buy, seller 8x8s, people looking to sell. And then the other one I call mind share, because maybe you're out networking, you meet somebody, they're a local business owner, but they're not looking to buy or sell. And yet we want to build that relationship with them. So we have an 8x8 that maybe tells the story about the city or something about your team that's really cool. I call this the 5 list of 5. And so I had this client one time who really nailed this. And she had like her 5 favorite parks in San Antonio. And that was one of the emails she sent out. Her 5 favorite beers at her 5 favorite breweries. She even had one that was her 5 favorite donuts. And so each of these was simply a email that was part of her 8x8 that she used for her mind share people. Okay. And then, as you know, once they get off of the 8x8, then they need to go into a 36 touch. I think 36 is not nearly enough in today's world. I would encourage all of you to start calling it a 72 touch, because that's really what it needs to be. But that communication plan is where we want them to ultimately end up, right? So when you're floating over this and you're looking down, every person that you meet, whether they are looking to buy or sell or not, should be flowing through this system, ending up in the database, and ultimately on a communication plan, right? So my question to you, and it doesn't matter if you're a rainmaker, agent on a team, operations, where is your highway system breaking? Now, here's the one that I hear most often is when we capture and connect with people, or connect and capture with people, if they're not somebody that wants to transact right away, they don't always make it to the database. Or maybe they do, but they end up on some notepad or in your phone, and they don't ultimately make it into the database. And if you think about how much your average commission is, for some of you that might be $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000. Let's just say it's $10,000. And I came to you and I said, hey, I think you are so amazing. Here's 10 grand. And you knew recently that I hit the lottery, so the money's clean. It's not like I embezzled it or we're selling drugs or anything like that. My hallucination is that you wouldn't take that money and stuff it in a notebook somewhere. You would take it to the bank, your data bank, for safekeeping. And that's what happens so often with relationships, is that they don't make it from conversation, connect slash capture, to the database. And then if they make it to the database and they're a lead, they don't make it to the pipeline, or they don't make it to a communication plan. And this is so simple, you guys. If we just won this cultivate game, we would never lose momentum. But when we're cherry picking and we're not following the system, then your highway system breaks and you end up having to generate so many more leads than is necessary. And it feels like you're constantly starting over instead of just humming right along.